It was 2:17 a.m. when I woke up to a faint sound in our bedroom. A creak of the floorboards, a whispered laugh, the unmistakable hum of betrayal. At first, I thought I was dreaming. My wife, the woman I had trusted with everything, moving in ways that made my chest tighten, my heart thud painfully against my ribs. I lay frozen, staring at the dark silhouette of our bedroom, the moonlight spilling across the bed, revealing a scene I could never unsee. For 15 years, I had believed in us. In our quiet nights, our laughter over coffee, the shared glances at our son's soccer games. I had built a life thinking we were untouchable, perfect. But tonight, perfection shattered like glass. I could feel every heartbeat in my ears as the truth unfolded before me. The betrayal wasn't loud. It was subtle, insidious. A touch here, a sigh there, small things that would have gone unnoticed if I hadn't been wide awake. And yet, I saw it all. I saw her smile at him, the warmth meant for me now stolen by another. Time slowed. Every second stretched into a lifetime of disbelief, hurt, and rage. The familiar scent of her perfume, the sheets I had folded just yesterday, they all turned into cruel reminders. How long had this been going on? How many nights had I been sleeping beside a stranger in my own bed? I lay there, pretending to be asleep, calculating, planning. This wasn't just a moment of betrayal, it was a doorway. A door that, once opened, would lead to consequences she would never imagine. And in that instant, I made a decision. I would not scream. I would not confront her in anger. I would wait. I would watch. And when the time came, she would understand exactly what it means to cross me. When we first met, everything felt effortless. She had a laugh that could light up a room, and I would catch myself staring at her in disbelief, thinking how lucky I was. Our early days were filled with simple joys, morning coffee together, walks in the park, long talks late at night. I remember one winter evening, snow falling softly outside our apartment window, and we stayed up talking until dawn. I felt, in that moment, that nothing could ever break us. Marriage, at first, was a continuation of that magic. Our weekends were spent grocery shopping together, cooking dinner side by side, laughing at small mistakes like burnt pancakes or spilled wine. We would plan vacations, even tiny weekend trips, and I loved the way she got excited over the smallest things, a new book, a flower, or even a particularly good cup of coffee. Those details made our life feel warm, safe, and predictable in the best possible way. We shared everything, or at least, I thought we did. She trusted me with her family secrets. I trusted her with mine. Every evening, when I came home from work, she would greet me at the door with that smile, the same one that made my chest tighten after all these years. Our son's laughter would echo from the living room, and the three of us together felt like a perfect little world. I built my life around that trust, around the certainty that she was mine and I was hers. But even in those early years, there were small things I brushed off. Occasionally, she would receive calls she quickly dismissed, or her phone would light up when I wasn't around. Sometimes, she seemed distant in a way that made me pause for a second, just a flicker of worry before I pushed it aside. I thought it was stress, work, or fatigue, and I never questioned it too deeply. I told myself that love was about trust, and I trusted her completely. Even now, when I replay those memories, the ordinary days feel like a mask. The laughter, the warmth, the tiny shared rituals, they were real. But beneath them, there were whispers I didn't hear, moments I didn't notice, hints of a distance I never explored, a smile that wasn't always for me. Looking back, I realized those small, almost invisible cracks were the first signs of everything that would later shatter my life. It started with small things I couldn't ignore, though at first I tried. A faint hesitation in her voice when I asked about her day. The way she would glance at her phone and quickly swipe the screen when I entered the room. Little inconsistencies, appointments she claimed she had forgotten to mention, sudden trips to the store that lasted hours. My gut tightened each time, a low hum of doubt I tried to silence. Then came the receipts. At first, I noticed them casually, one for dinner at a restaurant neither of us recognized, another for coffee from a shop 2 towns away. She explained them away with vague stories about errands and friends, but something in her tone didn't match the words. I began keeping track, piecing together times and places, making mental maps of where she was and who she could have been with. Each new detail felt like a thread pulling at a hidden fabric I wasn't supposed to see. One night, I noticed her phone left on the kitchen counter. It wasn't unusual for her to leave it there, but something compelled me to pick it up. Messages popped up immediately, short, familiar, intimate texts from a name I didn't recognize. "Can't wait to see you," one said. "I miss you," said another. My hands shook, but I didn't confront her. I didn't need to. I had the first undeniable proof that the world I trusted was already lying to me. I began to observe more carefully, watching patterns emerge. She would leave the house at odd hours, sometimes dressed in a way that didn't match where she claimed she was going. Her car routes became suspicious. I noticed detours that led to places she had never mentioned. And then there was the smell. Perfume on her coat that wasn't hers, faint but unmistakable. Each discovery built on the last. A credit card statement revealed charges for hotels, dinners, and gifts that had no explanation. I recorded the evidence quietly, methodically, as though I were preparing for something I couldn't yet name. At night, I would lie awake, staring at the ceiling, heart pounding, imagining her laughter with someone else, a scene I could not erase. The breaking point came when I returned home early one Thursday. The house was too quiet. The lights dimmed in the hallway. I crept to our bedroom and froze. The door was slightly ajar. I could hear movement inside, soft, deliberate. And then I saw it. My wife, in our bed, with him. Time stopped. My mind raced. Every clue, every strange message, every unexplained errand had led to this. I stepped back silently, hiding in the shadows, letting the scene imprint itself in my mind. This wasn't just suspicion anymore. This was reality. And I knew, in that instant, that the life I had built on trust, love, and loyalty had been stolen right under my nose. I simply watched, letting the truth settle over me like a dark cloud. The woman I had trusted with my life, the person I had shared my every secret with, every hope, every fear, had chosen someone else. And not in a moment of weakness, not in a mistake I could forgive, but repeatedly, deliberately, with a calmness that made my betrayal sting even more. Her eyes never met mine as I stood there. She did not know I had returned. Perhaps she thought she was safe. Perhaps she believed our marriage would shield her from exposure. But I saw everything. Every touch, every smile, every whispered word meant for someone else. It became a record in my mind. And though I remained silent, my heart was screaming, every beat marking the depth of the wound she had inflicted. I remembered the small signs I had ignored, the late nights, the hidden phone, the faint perfume that wasn't hers, the receipts that made no sense. They all fit together now, forming a puzzle that spelled betrayal in letters too large to ignore. The weight of reality pressed down on me, suffocating in its intensity. Yet outwardly, I stayed calm. I breathed slowly, measured my movements, and controlled every expression. My exterior was a mask of composure, but inside, I was unraveling. Pain, disbelief, fury, heartbreak, all raging silently. I replayed every memory of our life together, every moment I had trusted her completely, and the contrast with what I had just witnessed was unbearable. And in that moment, a single, icy thought crystallized in my mind. I would not act recklessly. I would not give her the satisfaction of my immediate reaction. I would wait. I would plan. Every ounce of anger, every drop of hurt, every spark of betrayal would be stored, measured, and used. Because she needed to understand, not in whispers, not in arguments, but in a way that would leave her stunned, exposed, and humiliated. After I saw her with him, I made a decision. Anger alone was not enough. I needed control, precision, and patience. I would not scream. I would not lash out. I would plan. Every detail, every hidden clue, every lie she had spun would become a weapon in my hands. The first step was gathering evidence. I knew I needed proof that could not be denied. I had already noticed her phone habits, her hidden messages, her unexplained trips. I began monitoring her digital footprint discreetly, email records, online messages, even tracking the subtle changes in her social media behavior. Every text, every call, every interaction became a piece of the puzzle. I saved screenshots, logged timestamps, and built a chronology of her betrayals. Next, I needed witnesses. Friends, family, even colleagues who had noticed odd behaviors or overheard conversations became crucial. I spoke to them carefully, not revealing my full plan, only asking subtle questions that seemed innocent. Slowly, I gathered corroborating statements that would make my case airtight if the truth had to come out publicly. Meanwhile, I started preparing for the financial angle. I consulted with a lawyer, not to file immediately, but to understand what documents, accounts, and contracts could protect me and give leverage. I reviewed our shared assets, our joint accounts, and discovered minor irregularities she had attempted to hide over the years. Each discovery added fuel to my strategy. Every hidden transaction or secret expense became a thread I could pull when the time was right. I also began planting subtle traps. Invitations, casual mentions of meetings or social events, small tests to see if she would slip up or reveal herself again. Each reaction was carefully noted. She was clever, but not invincible. Over the course of weeks, her pattern emerged. The same late nights, the same excuses, the same careless gestures. And I documented everything. The most delicate part was timing. I could not act immediately. I needed the perfect moment, a situation where the exposure would be public, undeniable, and irreversible. I planned the scenario meticulously, a gathering where family and friends would be present, the evidence arranged so that every detail was undeniable, the humiliation unavoidable. I imagined the moment with cold clarity, the gasps, the confusion, the finality of truth hitting her like a physical blow. Every step of my plan was silent, invisible to her. I smiled at her in the morning, acted casually, and maintained the illusion of trust. She walked freely, unaware that every lie, every deception, was mapped and stored in my mind. And yet, she was walking on the edge of a knife. One misstep, one careless word, and the entire network of evidence would snap into place. Finally, the day arrived. I had coordinated everything. Proof printed, digital records compiled, corroborating witnesses briefed. I positioned myself quietly, letting her settle into the room where the confrontation would unfold. I could feel my pulse, steady yet alive with anticipation. It was no longer about anger. It was about justice, methodical and complete. Then, as casually as if nothing were wrong, I began. I revealed the messages, the receipts, the hidden calls. I presented the timeline of every betrayal, every lie she had told over months, years even. I introduced witnesses, presented the corroborating evidence, and let the facts speak louder than any argument could. The calmness in my tone contrasted with the chaos unraveling around her. Every gasp, every falter in her expression, every attempt to deny what was obvious, only reinforced the precision of my plan. By the time it was over, the truth was undeniable. Friends, family, even colleagues understood the scope of her deception. She was exposed completely, without a single harsh word from me. No violence, no threats, just the cold, methodical force of evidence, timing, and careful planning. And through it all, I remained calm. My revenge was not about destruction for its own sake. It was about exposing the truth, reclaiming control, and ensuring that she understood exactly the consequences of betrayal. It was complete, final, and inescapable. In that moment, I realized that patience, strategy, and precision were more powerful than anger. The mask she had worn for so long was shattered, and I had orchestrated every detail, ensuring that the humiliation was absolute and inescapable. She had played her game for years, but I had waited, and I had won. She stood there, frozen, as every secret she had buried so carefully was laid bare before our friends, family, and colleagues. Her face went pale, her lips trembling, and for the first time, she had no words, no excuses, no defense. Every lie, every betrayal, every hidden meeting was now visible to everyone she had trusted to remain ignorant. I watched silently, letting the truth do the work I could not with anger. Gasps filled the room. Some whispered, some stared in disbelief, and a few shook their heads in disappointment. The mask she had worn for years shattered in an instant. I could see the humiliation radiating from her in waves, her eyes darting helplessly from one person to the next, looking for an ally, a friend, a trace of understanding, finding none. For months, she had lived a double life, confident that I would never uncover her deceit. But now, all her carefully constructed lies had collapsed under the weight of evidence, timing, and truth. She realized, too late, that the world she had manipulated for her own selfish desires had evaporated. The people she had counted on to protect her secrets now looked at her with pity, judgment, and finality. I did not speak to comfort her, nor to gloat. I simply observed. The silence in the room was heavier than any shouting, heavier than any confrontation. It was the quiet judgment of reality, and it was complete. She had crossed a line that could never be uncrossed, and she had no one to blame but herself. When the crowd dispersed, leaving her alone amidst the remnants of her reputation and trust, I placed her belongings in a box and handed it to her. She did not cry. She only stared, broken, finally recognizing the consequences of every choice she had made. I left the house calmly, feeling a strange weight lift from my chest. Justice had been served, not through rage or chaos, but through patience, precision, and undeniable truth. And as I closed the door behind me for the last time, I whispered to no one but the empty room. Never betray the trust that built your life, because someone is always watching.